Hey guys, welcome to our second episode of our podcast, Explicitly Spoiled. I'm Alexandra,
And I'm Monica. Hi.
and today we thought we'd talk a bit about the different yoga styles out there. If you guys remember from our first episode, which if you haven't watched already, go and watch it. But if you remember from that one, we alluded that there are different styles out there, and probably there's a style for everyone, given the many possibilities. So we thought in this episode, we would talk a bit about some of those styles. So it's not going to be an exhaustive list by any means. We picked 5 styles, which we think are, let's say, more popular and more interesting for us. So, disclaimer, very obvious, but these are our own opinions based on personal experience, but then also maybe secondhand advice, research, what we know so far. So, and our own biases probably with this as well. So, just you've been warned. It doesn't mean that the styles, we've picked are, the best for everyone, but they're very different.
No.
So we thought we would show you like what you can kind of experience with yoga. And then I think if you guys want us to delve deeper into any of these styles or some others that we're not going to talk about today, but you're interested in, let us know. And yeah, we can do that in a future episode.
Definitely.
Yeah, and at the end of the episode, we want to go into some more fun styles, kind of as a bonus. So stick around to learn how you can do yoga on electronic music while drinking wine and getting naked. So yeah,
all of them at the same time.
And how we thought we'd approach this is go through every style in kind of high level terms, talk about what's unique about that specific style, what are some purported benefits, who we recommend it to, and sort of a rating from our side in terms of how beginner friendly we think it is, how prone maybe to different injuries or risks of different strains and things like that. And kind of leave it at that level. So we're really targeting, as we said in our first episode, the beginner level, the people that maybe haven't even tried and they're interested in knowing about different styles of yoga and giving it a try. So we're not going to go into a lot of details on any of these. Right. So with that all out of the way, we're going to get into the first style we've picked for today, which is Bikram yoga. So Bikram yoga is a style of hot yoga. And hot yoga, as per the name, means doing yoga in a very warm environment. So with Bikram, the practice is that the room in which you're going to practice yoga is heated to 41 degrees Celsius. That's 106 Fahrenheit. So it's pretty hot. And you have the classic practice means a fixed sequence of 26 poses that you go through twice in 90 minutes of the class. So that's how long the class takes. So it is quite structured and rigid from that perspective. You always do the same 26 poses. And as I said, repeated twice in 90 minutes. And the reason for that is to be able to improve in those poses and see how you progress, right? So you keep doing the same thing and see how you can improve in that. And another common trait of the practice is that usually the studios would have floor to ceiling mirrors so you can check your postures and see how you improve every class.
Oh, Bikram.
Sorry?
I was just saying, Bikram, with the mirrors and everything.
Exactly. So it's very specific. We should also mention that the reason the room is heated to 41 degrees is to recreate the Indian climate. And the name of the practice, Bikram, comes from its creator, so to speak, who is Bikram Chowdhury.
Mhm.
And if you're interested in more things about Bikram and the practice, I think there's like a Netflix documentary, right, Monica?
Yeah, exactly. I've seen it. I think it's still on. Yeah, it's quite spectacular, and it opens a little window into what Bikram yoga ended up meaning. But yeah, it's a Netflix documentary about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and also to add to this, one other unique thing maybe to Bikram is that the teacher doesn't demonstrate the poses. So you'll see as we go through other styles that that's more the norm, I'd say, in yoga. But in this case, the teacher doesn't go through the flow with you; they just talk you through them.
It's the same. I think with Ashtanga yoga, it's most teachers' approach to teaching it. Yeah.
Yeah. And with that, kind of going into some benefits here. So there's actually been done a systematic review on the benefits of Bikram yoga. So in 2015, and they found that it improves lower body strength, range of joint motion in both upper and lower body, and balance. And there's also been unsystematic trials, so that's without randomized controls, and those have found possible improvements in glucose tolerance, in bone density, and just overall mindfulness and how you perceive stress. So there's quite a few benefits out there for Bikram practitioners. And there's also the added, let's say, benefit of the heated yoga, which has been shown in very small studies that it boosts the adult's heart health.
Mm-hmm.
But there can also be some, let's say, risks there in terms of injuries, right? Because of the way the heated sort of environment works. And maybe Monica, you can talk a bit more about that.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I used to practice quite a serious amount of hot yoga, and I also taught. I used to teach hot yoga. It wasn't Bikram, but it was a specific trademarked type of franchise type of hot yoga. And from my personal experience and from my students' experience, I have found out that it's very exciting, right? It's a very exciting experience in the sense that you discover you can do so much more with your body than you normally would in a regular type of environment, one that's a bit colder or just regular temperature, right? So you can basically bend your body and twist it into cooler shapes, right? If you see yoga as doing shapes with your body. Uh, and for the exact same reason, it is also quite risky because you can easily surpass the limits, the boundaries of your body unknowingly, and that's risk an accident. So to practice it risk-free or as risk-free as possible, we must really know our bodies well in order to understand how much deeper we can push them. That's my take on hot yoga.
Yeah, exactly. So it's basically with that, if we go into our rating of this style, in terms of beginner level friendliness, we gave it a 2 out of 5 stars. We don't think it's that beginner friendly. First off, as we said, there's 90 minutes of a practice. It's quite challenging. Then if you add the heated sort of environment on top of that, it can become even more challenging. If you're a beginner, you probably won't realize necessarily when you go over your range of motion, let's say because your body's warm, you're in that environment, so you don't realize you're going to injure yourself necessarily until the practice is over and you step out of that hot environment, which is a risk there. And also, as we've alluded to earlier, it has, heart health benefits. But that's in the case you don't have any heart issues or anything like that. If you have any cardiovascular issues, it's probably best that you check with your doctor before trying anything like this. because even if, even for regular people, let's say without any issues, doing exercise for 90 minutes in a very warm environment can, you can get a lot of maybe uncomfortable symptoms there, right? Or you could maybe even get a heat stroke, who knows? So yeah, I would say be cautious about it. And that's why, again, it goes back to, it's probably not that beginner friendly. And yeah, just have those in mind if you want to try it and you've never done yoga, and maybe you're not even pretty active, let's say, day to day. And because of that, we feel like the risk here is quite high, again, because of all of the things we mentioned. So we gave that 4 out of 5. So yeah, just be cautious, again, if you want to try it. In terms of just personality wise, or just the people we would recommend it to, still, I think, if you're someone that likes structure, right, and likes routine, then I think this could be something you would enjoy, right? Because again, it's very rigid, it's very structured. You know what you are getting into every time. However, if you're on the polar opposite of that, it's probably not something you would enjoy by any means, because yeah, it can get, pretty boring if routine and structure aren't something you find entertaining.
Yeah, exactly. Trying to say that it could be really good for people who like routine and don't mind repeating the same practice all over again, day after day. And in this sense, that is similar to Ashtanga yoga as well. So
Yeah, what I wanted to also sort of add, and Monica, you can give your perspective as well here, is I've never tried it personally, right? So I've seen it practiced, I've learned about it. I know people that have practiced it, but I personally have not. So everything I've mentioned, everything, so far is based on that secondhand, let's say, evidence and research and so on. Yeah, I don't know about you, Monica, if you've tried it ever or if you want to try it.
I did hatch yoga at some point. At some point in Madrid, I think it was just one class, um, and then I practiced and taught hot yoga in Romania, but no Bikram, not ever. So again, just like in your case, a secondhand experience. Yeah. I also would like to add that I don't think I'm super curious to do it. With a plethora of yoga styles that's out there, that's maybe not the one that I'm most curious about to try. So yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm the same. So there you go, guys. You can have preferences. You don't need to try everything. But if you're, again, interested in what we said, absolutely go give it a try. Right. So with that, going into the next one we wanted to touch on today, that's Iyengar yoga. So what is Iyengar yoga? Well, the main emphasis in this style is on detailed alignment and precision in performing the poses. So there's quite a regular practice of using props, right? So belts, blocks, bands, blankets to aid in performing the pose, to support usually beginners or elderlies or those that have some sort of physical limitations to perform the poses correctly, and thus reducing the risk of injuries and strains. And there's also a sort of, let's say, sequence of poses, and that is important in Iyengar to achieve the desired result. And it's really then prioritizing the correct movement over the quantity of movement, so to speak. So it's very much, again, focused on alignment, and with that the benefits are to improve your physical health and improve your postural or structural problems. So with that in mind, is quite beginner friendly. I think it's our most beginner friendly, or one of the most beginner friendly practices out there, because it really caters to that perspective, really, right?
Mm.
And also in terms of risks for injuries, I think that's really low. So we gave it like 2 out of 5 stars. Again, because it's really like the idea behind the practice is almost to help you stay injury free, or even like improve some other injuries that you didn't even, you didn't acquire through yoga. So for instance, in this case, I know someone that has been in an accident. So she was cycling and a van basically ran into her. So it was quite a bit of a serious accident. And she was left with quite some injuries after it. And she was recommended Iyengar yoga to improve her injuries. And she started doing it, and she, completely recovered, basically. It was a long period of time because, as I said, she had quite substantial injuries. But yeah, Iyengar really, really helped her to really get to, like, you can't tell she ever was in an accident right now. So it's really good from that perspective. And so with that in mind, we generally recommend it to beginners, but also to people that want to gain maybe optimal alignment or have any postural issues or things like that. It can be really therapeutic for that. And again, it is a bit on the structured side, right? So if you don't really like structure at all, it's probably going to be challenging to stick to it. But of course, it depends the reason you get into it in the first place.
Yeah, from what I've experienced, Alex, it was the same. I mean, it's the yoga for professional athletes par excellence. So not necessarily professional athletes, but if you're a runner or a jogger, a biker, um, it's really it really addresses your recovery time. Uh, I would say, and as you mentioned, if you're injury prone or have some serious ailments in your physical body, it can help you fix them or at least address them in a very good way. Uh, One thing that fascinates me about Iyengar yoga is the use of props. That was the revelation for me. I, of course, try to use them in regular hatha yoga practices as well in my classes or when I practice myself. But Iyengar yoga is so precise in that sense that you actually end up understanding how helpful those props are. They have chairs and bricks and belts and all of that, and they use the walls a lot, and they use ropes that are glued or stuck to walls actually. So it changes the experience completely, and it also changes how you feel the yoga asanas in your body. And I also think you mentioned something that you hold them for long, right? You said this at some point about the poses, or I
I don't
think
think I did, but yes,
you
you do. If
yeah.
you want to add more around that, I think it's
Oh
like a
yeah.
few minutes, right? Or something.
It is, but then there are also other types of yoga where you hold the poses for a lot of minutes, like yin yoga, for instance. But the thing with holding Iyengar yoga poses for long is that the teacher instructs you. Um, so they push you into the pose with their words, of course, not necessarily that they touch you or anything, but they even talk what goes on about what goes on in your body up to cell level, the components of a cell in your muscles or your skin or your bones even. So it can be a little bit triggering, depending on your type of personality, to hold a warrior two for 2.5 or 3.5 minutes, talking about how you rotate the bones and the skin and the cells. And so, yeah, it can really get to you. I personally call it the yoga of chess players or the yoga of mathematicians or whatever. Um, the trick is that my second yoga teacher training course was loosely based on Iyengar yoga practices, and that's how I ended up understanding that I would never teach Iyengar yoga, or that I also don't like to practice it. But the paradox is that whenever my one of my teachers that I really love and respect a lot is into town, I go and practice with him. He does the Iyengar yoga workshops, and it's really good because kind of kills your ego. And it is afterwards, you feel like you're new, you're refreshed, your body is almost pain free. It's like you've had a deep tissue massage. So to me, this is my experience. I am not the type of personality that can practice Iyengar yoga um, constantly or regularly, or I'm not the one to have the patience to teach it, or to, to drive to guide people in it. But every once in a while, it's just what the doctor ordered, as far as I'm concerned. So that's my experience. It's also really good if you think about the teacher perspective, because it helps you teach other styles of yoga, honestly, because there's so much anatomy and alignment linked to it that you normally don't encounter in other types that are more energetic, or where you move your body a lot and you don't have the time to hold the poses fully. So yeah, that's what my experience has been with Iyengar yoga.
Yeah, and I
So
think what you said with the, it helps teach other styles, right?
mm,
I can
definitely.
totally understand that, because it's like you understand so much about anatomy that then in other styles you can teach in a way that it helps the students, you know, steer away from injuries and maybe incorrect postures and things like that, right? So you understand exactly how the body works, so you can then teach in a way that helps as many people as possible to not strain their body in types that shouldn't be strained in.
That's spot on. That's exactly how it is, objectively speaking. So yeah, it's an experience, definitely. So and so is Kundalini, by the way, because we also wanted to touch upon it, I think.
Yeah, that's next on our list. I will also, just to end with this, say that I've never done Iyengar yoga either. Again, I have experience. I know people that have done it. I have, let's say, a more in-depth experience secondhand on this than Bikram, but I haven't done it. And I guess this is a bit of a giveaway for my personality, that I don't do well with a lot of structure and rigidity. So yeah, spoiler alert for later on when we get into my favorite style. Right. So with that, we're going to go into Kundalini yoga. So this type of yoga is different in the way that it doesn't focus on the physical too much. So both Bikram and Iyengar are very much on the physical side, right? So you have the poses, you have the alignment. It's all, yeah, very much on the movement side. Kundalini is more on the sort of spiritual side of things. So it focuses on the spiritual energy, which is the Kundalini energy, which is believed to be at the base of the spine. And as you go through the practice, is believed to awaken this energy and enhance your awareness and help you move past your ego. So it does have um, physical poses, right? It does have the physical element, but the focus isn't on that. Kundalini has a combination of singing and chanting and poses and breath in specific patterns. So it is a bit repetitive as well, and it has a specific pattern to it that then drives the practice every time.
Mm.
And with that, it's believed to really help relieve stress and anxiety, and just bring more empathy and calmness and internal peace to the people practicing it. Now, of course, in order to get all of those benefits, you do obviously need to practice it, but I think also you need to be a bit, if not interested in the spiritual side of things, at least open to getting a different perspective there. I think if none of these apply, it's probably not a practice, not necessarily not to try it, but it's maybe not a very beginner friendly practice, right? So with that, it kind of scored it 3 out of 5 on the beginner's level, because it really depends, I think, a bit on the personality of the individual trying it. In terms of risks, we think it scores pretty low, so around 2 out of 5. Again, also because it doesn't really focus so much on the physical. So there are multiple other things going on that don't really pose, we don't think, any major risk, let's say. I don't know, Monica, if you've tried this personally and how you
Hmm.
feel the practice is, how you found it.
Not a fan. I'm not a fan, but again, I really love to experiment with it. I think I I started yoga sometimes in 2010, I think, right? Or 2009 was it? I don't even remember now. And throughout this entire period, I think I attended 4 or 5 classes tops. In fact, I attended one today because I attended a yoga festival today. Um, it's the only one we have, sadly, in Bucharest, and it only happens once a year. We used to have more, but then the pandemic pretty much killed everything that was yoga related. So today's Kundalini class that I attended, it was very sweet. It was called Kundalini Love and Light. But of course, as Vero, the teacher said, you in order to get to the love and light part, you really have to work like a lot. So we worked our asses off, and that was my previous experience as well in terms of Kundalini because I find it physically exhausting. And this time, maybe this time, I think I was in better shape than in the past occasions or something because or the class was easier. I think it was a combo of both. But I really enjoyed it. It was a sweet experience. And to me, it is spectacular because you do pranayama, you do breathing techniques while in the poses. And hatha yoga, regular styles of yoga teach you that you kind of do asana first, pranayama later, or the other way around. You don't necessarily combine them. So that's what fascinated me about Kundalini. Uh, yes, indeed, it's about energies rising, and it is actually, I can testify it is happening. I walked out of the class feeling super refreshed and with my sinuses cleared and breathing super easily, which is never the case with me, unfortunately. So yeah, but again, I've had my energy, my Kundalini energy rise using other yogic techniques. So I wouldn't say you need to do Kundalini yoga to address that type of energy, right? That it's called uh, Kundalini because it says it's serpent-like. It's like a serpent that's coiled up at the base of your spine. Yeah, so that's where the name gets from, comes from. And I think we can make an analogy with Jivamukti. I've only attended one Jivamukti class in my life. It was in Sweden, in Stockholm. It was very spectacular. It is similar with Kundalini in the sense that they are both very spiritually oriented styles of yoga. Jivamukti was, how to put it? Yeah, it's a combo of physicality and spiritual type of yoga. Um, Jivamukti has heavy chanting. Sometimes they use kirtan as well, from what I remember. And also, it's the name is beautiful because Jivamukti means liberation while living during your lifetime, right? It comes from a Sanskrit term which used to describe a state of enlightenment or realization. So Jiva means individual soul, and Mukti means liberation. And this method was created by Sharon Gannon and David Life in 1986. So yeah, so going back to Kundalini, it's really cool to try it. If you ever have the chance to, the differences you feel in your body and at the energetic level are immediate. So you will feel it deep in your body. If you're committed to that practice, you will feel it immediately when you're done with it after the class and you keep it with you, right? So, and if you just do it one time, you'll notice how special it is. But yeah, not something that I would do on a regular manner. So
Yeah, I actually tried this one myself. I've done a few classes, a few. And I have to say, I didn't dislike it. I'm not
mhm.
actively seeking it either, but I didn't dislike it. It was during a time that I was like just interested in trying something else. And Kundalini just so happened to be the one
In
that
the way.
was yeah, the opportunity to do it, to try it. And yeah, I've done, as I said, a few. It wasn't so much, I guess the ones that I've done weren't so much on the chanting side, so to speak. So there was a bit of that, but it was, I would imagine, limited. So it's more at the beginning and the end rather.
Mantras, maybe. Mantra
Yeah, a
chanting.
bit of that. Yeah. But
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
lot. Right. And
Mm.
it was, from my perspective, it was okay. So I would recommend it, like, if you are already doing yoga. I've never tried it. I think it's, something that you can try because it's quite different, as I said, to the other maybe styles,
Yeah.
because it doesn't focus so much on the physical. But yeah, I'm with you, as in I wouldn't like do it very much regularly. But it is
Mm.
something, I guess, that I was more interested in trying versus Bikram, for instance, that I wasn't, and I don't think I am still interested in trying for now. So
Uh-huh.
I guess from that perspective is, yeah, something else entirely, let's say.
Yes.
Right. And with that, we get to vinyasa,
Yeah.
which, I mean, if it's not obvious, but I will address it anyway, is my favorite style of yoga.
We couldn't
So I'm
tell.
gonna be I'm gonna be biased here for sure. So just putting that out there. But yeah, what is vinyasa? So vinyasa is really a style of yoga that focuses on the movement synchronized with the breath. So basically, you're always kind of in a constant flow, and you're focusing on your breath as you move from one pose to another. It's quite a broad classification, right, vinyasa? So it encompasses many other styles. So like Ashtanga and power yoga are sub styles, let's say, of vinyasa.
Mm.
And it's really because of this whole movement synchronized with the breath, it gives the opportunity to teachers to really arrange the progression the way they want. So there's no real structure or no real rigidity on this one. So you don't have a specific sequence. There's not a specific number of poses or specific poses that you're practicing. Depending on the class and the teacher, it's always going to be pretty much different. So from that
True.
perspective, that for me is great because, as I was alluding to earlier, I am not necessarily the person that thrives on doing the same thing over and over again. I'm really not that person. So with that in mind, vinyasa really caters to my personality because I like to see new things, try new things, and no two classes of vinyasa are the same. And that is really very, very entertaining. There's a lot of benefits for vinyasa, and it's been shown that it reduces stress, is accessible for many fitness levels, and this is really key if you're a beginner. So again, because there's no real sequence there's no real structure, you can go and do a vinyasa class for beginners, right? And it really caters for that specific state, and you're gonna get that class, and the risk of injury in that sense is really, really low, right? Because again, it's catered to your situation, let's say, as much as
Mm-hmm.
possible. It's been reported that it improves heart health. It can lower blood sugar and cholesterol. But the other thing that I wanted to really touch on, which is also something that I've experienced personally, is that it's been shown to reduce anxiety and depression and help you increase your ability to handle stress and relax. And if you guys listen to our first episode, and if you haven't, what are you doing? Go listen to it. But yeah, I was just saying there that I found yoga, and specifically vinyasa, in a very, let's say, low moment of my life when I was anxious and depressed and didn't know how to handle stress anymore. And vinyasa really, really helped me with all of that. So I'm, walking, talking example of this is, it really helps with anxiety and depression, and calming you and helping you relax. So yeah, in terms of rating, I mean, five
10
five
out of
out of
5,
five.
Alex.
Yes.
10 out of 5.
Exactly. So for me, again, biased by 5 out of 5 for beginners. As I said, it really caters to every level. So I think that's great. And then in terms of risks, as I mentioned, I don't see a lot of risks there. Again, because it's based on where you are. It really finds you where you are, so to speak, in your practice. And yeah, in terms of who we would recommend it to, I mean, if you don't like structure, if you appreciate unpredictable things, if you like to keep moving, if you're high energy, then this is the practice for you.
If
It's
you're
always going to be
creative,
interesting. Yes,
if you're
yeah.
creative as well, if you're a creative person, an artist, or simply more, more creative in that sense, then it's the yoga for you.
Yeah, yeah, and if exactly if you really like to be challenged as well, right? Because you find new things. If you like change, I guess,
Mhm.
then vinyasa is definitely for you. And I've been practicing it since 2017. It's been a while. I am still in love with it. It's still my favorite. So yeah, I would really challenge you to try it. Again, biased here, but yeah, I think you might really like it, especially if you are that type of personality.
Yeah, it's what's there not to like really about vinyasa? Vinyasa is really cool. It's just that my perspective on it is the complete opposite of Alex's perspective, in that for me as a practitioner, it's too dancey. It has um, um, you flow very quickly from one pose to the other, and you make sure you transition. Actually, it's more. It's yeah. It's also a flow from one pose to another, but also the transitioning from one pose to another is very smooth, gazelle-like, ballet-like. I think it also depends on the teacher and how you want to follow their guidance. And it's also too much movement for me as a practitioner. But one of the big points of attraction, one of the big reasons vinyasa attracts me is that depending on who your teacher is during the yoga session that you have, you might encounter a vinyasa style that is so the entire class is mainly it is basically a progression towards one single pose. They call it the peak pose. And I've noticed how they guide you into working the groups of muscles and warming up the joints that actually make you flow easy, much easier in the peak pose, the difficult pose, the queen of the asana, in that sense of that specific yoga session, right? So I attended several classes like that. Um, that's something that you generally have in a yoga class, maybe in Iyengar a little bit. Um, Also it's quite different, right, than Iyengar in the sense that you really hold the poses for very little time and you immediately flow into the next one. When whereas when it comes to Iyengar, you can have a 50-minute class and you can do 6 poses. So it's that's how different they are. So definitely one of the things, one of the styles that is, to me, it's a must try if you're trying to decide what's the best style for you, and what's the style that suits you the most and brings you the benefits that you're seeking, then definitely vinyasa is something that needs to be tested. Yeah, so that's how I see it.
Well, appreciate that. Although I know it's not your favorite, at least
No,
you
but it's
agree with
true.
me that everyone should
It's
try
true.
it. But
Yes,
um, I think
absolutely.
also what I wanted to just mention, yes, indeed, it's you're not holding poses for 5 minutes. But
Mm.
there are, let's say, different styles and different teachings out there that there could be like a vinyasa class that is not so dynamic, let's say, and you do hold the poses a bit. It's just, again, not
Yeah,
dynamic.
like a slow flow, is that
Slow
maybe?
flow, exactly. So it's not a
Mm.
power yoga, it's just a flow.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, also there's like different length of classes, right? It's not a specific, like you do 60 minutes or 30 minutes, whatever you can do, whatever the teacher decides at that point, right? And whatever that class is about. So that also gives you quite a bit of flexibility. And again, it goes back to if you're a beginner, you can go to a shorter class that is catered for beginners and it's probably going to have simple poses and a slower flow and things like that. So yeah, I think that's also just goes back to there's no structure almost within the structure of vinyasa, and that I think makes it interesting to try also different teachers, different studios, right? And kind of have a different experience almost every time, although you're doing the same, let's say, style of yoga.
Yeah. Hmm. But it's like
Right.
it's not,
Yeah.
maybe not a style, but a freestyle of yoga, right? Because you're just freestyling somehow.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
I maybe.
So that's vinyasa for you guys. And I will say what we said at the beginning. If you want us to delve more into any of the styles, if you want us to delve more into vinyasa, I can talk for 4 days. So let us know.
The thing that I can talk about for 4 days is Ashtanga yoga. um, it's one of my favorite styles. It's actually my absolute favorite, and that's why what I teach, the type of yoga I teach, is loosely based on the Ashtanga yoga first and second series. Um, yeah. Alex, just maybe you would like to show your perspective on it, and do your own intro, and then I can add some stuff.
Sure. I was going to, free reign here if you want to talk about it because I know it's your favorite style. So I didn't want to butt in, so to speak. But yeah, just in general, a bit about Ashtanga, and then I'll let Monica talk some more about it specifically, but just what it is, right? It's a style of yoga that also has a fixed sequence. So there's 6 series there, and each with a fixed sequence of poses that you can do in Ashtanga. And it is considered the most difficult yoga style because it requires a lot of discipline and patience. And you can argue, Bikram is quite fixed as well, right? And it has, the same structure. But the difference in that structure is that, as I said, Ashtanga has 6 series rather than just the one sort of same 26 poses over and over again, right? So it challenges you more and more as you move into the practice. It's been shown that it can help the mind to be clearer and get the body more, get the body stronger and more flexible. It helps with just creating an internal heat in the body, which improves circulation, detoxifies the system. So there's quite a few benefits there as well for Ashtanga, and I'm sure Monica can talk more about that from a more advanced perspective. In terms of rating, really just to touch on this, we gave it a 3 out of 5 for the beginner level friendly, because again, it is quite structured and it is, I'd say, quite challenging. And then I think, in terms of risks, I would say between 2 to 3 stars. And Monica, you can disagree with me here in terms of what would be a risk for injury if you're a beginner and you go to an Ashtanga class, right? And yeah, then if you like a challenge, if you want to improve, discipline, enjoy discipline, like structure, I think this would be a great practice for you. But again, keeping in mind that it's quite difficult, let's say, and I don't think it caters that much for very beginner levels. I don't know, how do you feel about that, Monica?
Um, yeah, it depends. I mean, of course, if you ask an Ashtangi, they will tell you, no, everybody can do Ashtanga yoga, So, but I think one of the essential points that need to be made when speaking about Ashtanga yoga is that the teacher is essential, is extremely important. It is crucial for your individual practice, because if you're an absolute beginner, they show you the way, they pave it for you to advance. And if you are a more advanced practitioner, they can lead you to excellence. And excellence is not about being very performative, holding the poses and shaping them picture perfect. It's just about, so it's not about how the poses look, but how they feel on the inside. Um, the teacher is also important because they help you advance to the next pose in the series, and they will never allow you to skip poses to end up to the finishing sequence. So you need to go through all of them one at a time, and you are not allowed to advance in the series until you've mastered the one until that point. This is, the by the book rules. in 2023, there are very few ashrams, studios, teachers that do that, right? But I'm just speaking about it just so to see that it actually, under guidance, you can actually be very surprised in front of what your body can do. You can be really shocked pleasantly, right? When supervised and with persistence and constance. Uh, Ashtanga comes from Ashtau, which means eight, and Ang, which means limb. It's the yoga of eight limbs, and only one out of these eight limbs is asana, which is the physical posture. So now, having said that, we can just imagine how, not how little importance asana has, but how numerous are the things that are also important, the other seven things, right? In this yoga system. So it's basically 1/8 or 15-ish% of what yoga truly is, right? This asana thing. Ashtanga is indeed a very physical yoga because we have to tame the body, to heal it, to balance it, to make it go under the homeostasis phase, which is when everything is balanced and functions perfectly within the body. It's the grossest aspect of our being, right? So that's why we work it to address the other layers, the other seven layers of yoga, um, with in an easier way, right? So we work the body first, and then we can ascend to more spiritual states later on. And it's also to be said that Ashtanga lies on a three-pillar system that's called Trishtana. It's the bandhas, the breath, and the gaze or the look. The breath is very special. It is different than in any other type of yoga. It's a pranayama technique that's called ujjayi, or the oceanic breath, because it kind of sounds like when the ocean waves or the sea waves hit the shore, and then they retract back and then they hit the shore once again. So that's how the sound we try to make when we perform that technique. It can be, of course, practiced independently of the Ashtanga yoga system, if you're willing to give it a go. It brings cleaner air to your lungs. It also heatens up the body in a very significant way, which of course makes it more flexible, right? We've just said about the hot yoga type of yoga that helps you see and surprises you with how much you can do with your body. So that's what this breath does. It makes you more flexible. It brings cleaner air to your lungs. But its most important benefit is that it makes you be focused inward. By listening the sound of this breath, you actually end up being in a sort of very meditative state. And that's what Ashtanga Yoga really is. It's a meditation in movement, I like to call it. Because you move your body and you're always aware of the sound of this breath, and that's pretty much a meditation, right? So that's why I call it meditation in movement. It really helps you. This breath really helps you focus on the inside rather than being distracted by other type of things that happen outside of your being. Then we have the bandhas, which are sigils, as we say in English. They are small parts of your body that you contract a little bit they say, to keep the energy inward and prevent it from dispelling on the outside of your body. By practicing Ashtanga Yoga, we build energy, and we don't want to let it to waste, right? We don't want to let it go to waste. We want to keep it inside and use it for a later purpose, right? So that's what the bandhas are. And then, of course, it's the gaze, or drishti, we call it from Sanskrit. The more focused you are, the better your yoga session will be, and the better experience you will have, and the more successful the class will be. And we do that by looking at one fixed spot in every single pose. It's generally a spot on our body. That helps a lot with concentration. It also helps a lot with achieving that meditative state that I've spoken about previously. So I think I've touched upon all the points that I wanted to touch about Ashtanga Yoga. of course, we can have a separate section, a separate episode dedicated exclusively to it, if we have such requirements. So yeah, give it a try. It's definitely for people who are in love with routine, structured, yes, but some of us simply like to do predictable things. Uh, yeah, I mean, the same goes for me. I mean, I love a good vinyasa, creative flow, right? But then my brain needs to know that it knows, it can tell beforehand what's going to happen, right? So that's important for me, and it's important for many of us. Yeah, if you think you might enjoy that, give it a try. It's really cool to experiment.
Yeah, and agreed. From my side, I think you should try it. As we said, it is a substyle of vinyasa. It's not vinyasa, but it's, I guess, more similar to vinyasa than the other ones.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing that you've mentioned, specifically for Ashtanga, the Ujjayi breath and all of that, there's a lot of breathing techniques across yoga styles, right? So this is one of the many, let's say. And I think something that we didn't necessarily mention on the benefits, but it kind of goes across the spectrum, is helping you breathe better. Really, like yoga really helps you breathe fuller, deeper, and you don't even realize it until you start doing yoga and you realize just how out of breath and how shallow your breath actually is when you start doing yoga. And it's like, okay, for the inhale you do this, and for the exhale, for instance, for vinyasa, right, you do this, and you realize that on that one inhale of the teacher you inhale 4 times, whatever happened, because you cannot inhale that deep and exhale that deep to
Yeah.
really support that pose. If you have any like limited breathing, let's say, issues, I think any style of yoga really at the end of the day would be great to help you with that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, there are certain poses or breathing techniques that are forbidden to people with asthma, but generally, I think people have forgotten how to breathe. And yeah, a generic yoga class that doesn't go into very specific breathing techniques, for sure it will be helpful, because regardless of the style of the class you attend, your breathing will become better, for sure. And for sure you'll learn something in this aspect. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So with that in mind, we've reached the fun yoga styles. Not that these weren't fun, but more fun yoga styles. So there's quite a few, let's say, different entertaining styles out there. In no particular order, there's the doga and puppy and goat yoga styles, right? So those are all, like per the name, doing yoga with your dog or your puppy or a puppy or goats. So the doga, let's say, is actually going to yoga with your dog, and it's more focused, let's say, on stretching and meditation and you being with your pet on the mat, versus, let's say, puppy yoga, which is more around having actually animal shelter puppies, right, and giving that opportunity to bond with them, versus goat yoga where it's you just have goats around right, climbing on your back, being on your mat as you do yoga. And it's really a form of assisted animal therapy in this regard. So quite fun, especially if you like animals. If you have a pet, this might be something you can give it a go and just combine, some exercise, with your pet, basically.
Yeah.
I don't know, Monica, if you've done any of these, tried.
Nope. Not intending to either. I don't know. It really depends on what stage of your life you're in, right? I'm not excluding anything. I have some um, periods in my life where I don't say no to anything, really. So who knows? I might, if I feel curious at some point. I mean, why not? I'm trying to get a pet cat at some point so I could do some cat yoga, although cats bother you all the time during your practice, right? You don't need to attend a formal class with them. So it's not a problem. And yeah, and when we have while we have animal yoga or animal related yoga or yoga featuring animals, we also have yoga featuring very specific styles of music, right? Um,
Yeah. So there's the rave yoga and the metal yoga. And as per the names, the rave yoga is usually vinyasa to electronic music. So, if you love yoga and dancing, that's for you. And metal yoga is pretty much similar, but instead of electronic music, you have heavy metal music, right? So there's that as well. Then there's the alcoholic yoga, right?
I have this friend who is a practitioner and teacher in Paris. It's from her that I found out you can practice du yoga champagne, which means champagne yoga, or prosecco yoga, for instance, if you're in Italy. And there's also wine yoga classes, I think. Beer yoga, I haven't seen any in Romania, but I'm sure there are plenty of them in the UK because you guys really love having a pint or a pint. What's the?
It's a pint, yeah,
It's a pint of beer. There you go.
yeah, and yeah, exactly. So almost any type of alcohol, but yeah, beer, wine for sure, champagne. And there could be some non-alcoholic options, right? So you don't need to get drunk necessarily for that, but the idea being that you have the beer bottle or the wine or whatever, and you do the poses holding the bottle or drinking in between poses, and it's just kind of fun. Or you can even balance the bottle on your head or whatever, right? You're free to experiment, but yeah, it's just a fun, let's say, another fun way to do some yoga.
Yeah. I just wanted to say that the balancing the cup or the glass or the bottle or the whatever gets to me, and also makes me think about acro yoga. Uh, right, we have that in Bucharest as well, especially during the summertime. They gather in parks.
Yeah. There's quite a few styles that, let's say, are, I'd say, we've put them in the fun in this category, but there are more official, for lack of a better term, right? So acro yoga and aerial yoga, for instance. So
Yeah,
as per the name, acro yoga is yoga and acrobatics, right? So there's if you've seen it online at any point, there's the people that do all these funky shapes. Someone is the base, right? And it's holding someone else that is doing all this.
the
um
flyer.
Exactly, yeah, it's
Mm.
the base and the flyer there. So it's really, it's fun. It's also fun if you, I think, you're quite on the active side of things, right? And because I think if you're a real beginner, I don't know, I haven't tried it, so maybe I might be wrong here, but I think that might be challenging to do it if you never done yoga, never done any other sort of necessarily gymnastics or acrobatics or whatever. I think it might be not something you can do from the get go. But again, I haven't tried it myself, so I don't know. It looks like that. It looks a bit more challenging, as does aerial yoga. Although in the aerial yoga, you do have like ropes usually that are hung above to form the shapes. So it has the acro element, but it's a bit more controlled, I'd say.
Mhm.
So it feels a bit safer from my perspective. I don't know, Monica, have you tried any of these, or how do you feel about them?
I haven't tried acro yoga. I think it's a type of yoga for which your body must be extremely fit, or you have to be very physically fit. Of course, acro yogis will contradict me here. I'm positive. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not much into that. I would really love to try air yoga, or aerial yoga. To me, it's attractive because you abandon, you surrender yourself to that thing, right? And you hang with your head down, and that must feel exceptionally well for the spine, and it's lengthening, I feel. Uh, yeah, and you kind of play with gravity, I think. It's like yeah. So I would be interested to try that. I can maybe increase my 2024 resolution list with just that. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah. I think it's interesting for sure to give it a go. And then I guess lastly, but not least, we have the naked yoga, which is, as per the name says it, you do yoga naked, right? The benefits there are, that it really removes any mental and physical restrictions. and it helps with any misalignments, right? It can be readily seen given you are completely naked. Of course, it also takes a certain courage, probably, to get to do that. But yeah, it's, could be fun, and it could help you really understand how you do the postures and what's misaligning there potentially.
Uh, to me, that's like, I mean, I don't know, doing it alone or doing it as a group thing.
As a group, yeah.
As a
So
group
we're
thing,
talking
okay.
about classes here. Of course, I mean, if you do it alone,
Right.
it's, up to you, but talking about classes.
Maybe it's not even called naked yoga anymore if you do it naked in the privacy of your own
Yeah, I don't know.
yoga room or whatever. But how would it be? How cool, how dangerous, how silly, how fun would it be if we combined naked yoga with animal yoga? Here's the thought. No, just let's scratch that. No.
Or some alcohol and some music, and you get the thrill.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a yoga party or a yoga rave or whatever. But no, I don't think I would really love to feel any dogs or cats around my private parts while performing naked yoga. Thank you very much. So yeah, I think I'll pass on that.
So no cats, yeah, no dogs, no cats on that one.
Not while I'm naked. Nope. No.
Okay. Right. So yeah, those were our fun ones. I think, right, Monica? Was there anything else you wanted to talk about here?
It was, I just wanted to really quickly enumerate the multitude of yoga styles that are out there. You might not even have heard of many of these, neither have I. But before we wrap up, if you're really into yoga and interested in its variety and trying to understand what style would suit you, you can always try and Google info about Agama, Akhanda, alignment-based yoga, Ananda yoga, Antasha yoga, Anusara, Aqua, Baptiste yoga, Bhakti, Buroga, which is yoga for bros, men only, I think. Am I right?
I actually don't know.
You haven't heard of it. Okay.
There's something we can research, both of us. It sounds like it could be for bros, whoever feels like they're bros.
Like a bro?
I guess. Yeah.
There's chair yoga, there's kids yoga, of course, there's Drew yoga, family yoga, forest yoga, integral yoga, Ishta, Kalinata, Kripalu, Kriya, laughter yoga, of course, Odaka, paddleboard yoga, Phoenix rising yoga, what God's name is that? Purna yoga, restorative yoga, yin yoga, rocket yoga, Satyananda, Scaravelli, senior yoga for seniors. Perfect. Shadow yoga, Shivananda, special needs yoga, Svarupa, Swastika Tantra, Tree yoga, Vijnana, Vini yoga, Yoga Nidra, of course, and Yoga Lattes, which is a combo between yoga and Pilates, or some people call it Piloga. I'm done.
Okay, so you've heard, guys, there's a lot of styles, and I'm not even sure Monica has actually gone through the entire list. So truly, there's a style for you out there, right?
Yeah.
And I think bonus, just because you've mentioned it, and I realized we didn't necessarily touch on it at all when we discussed the 5 main styles, rocket yoga. So do you want to maybe do like a one-liner on that? Because that's like a subtype of Ashtanga, right?
It is. It's a cooler and freer type of rocket yoga. It's based a lot of inversions from what I remember. I only attended one class ages ago.
So there you go, guys. You do have some more flexible Ashtanga styles, right? So
definitely. Or my classes. My classes that are Ashtanga
or Monica's classes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Right. So with that said, before we go, as usual, we appreciate your feedback. Please let us know if any of the styles we talked about sounded interesting, if you've practiced any of the styles before, how you found them. If you haven't, would you like to try any? What we could maybe talk about some more to get you to try any of these or others. Yeah. Also, if you want us to go deeper into any topic, as we said, let us know. We can totally have a separate episode on that. And yeah, I think that's us for this episode. Really appreciate you guys joining us again and listening. And again, if you've made it this far, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in our next episode next Friday. Have fun and enjoy life's little joys.
See you next Friday. Bye.